Welcome to this latest edition of the Ril Dil podcast. I'm your host, Ril Gerald Quinn, episode 1011, Winning in Defeat. A lot to talk about on this just just sultry and ridiculously hot Tuesday. I hope everybody out there is staying safe, checking in on your resident seniors, not getting it, especially in the DMV, but mainly across the better part of the United States, especially the East Coast, South, and Midwest. So hopefully everybody out there is staying safe. We're going to begin with a new champion in the NBA. As always, again, like, subscribe, share this podcast. It is definitely greatly appreciated. We'll begin with a new champion in the NBA for the seventh straight year. The Oklahoma City Thunder complete one of the, from a winning standpoint, one of the great seasons in NBA history, winning 84 games between the postseason and playoffs. They become the youngest team or second youngest team in NBA history to win a championship, uh, going back to the 77 Portland Trailblazers. Trailblazers, of course, led by the late and great Bill Walton. Not only was the MVP, he was the MVP that season, also definitely won Finals MVP as well. Um, this is a special team from the standpoint of they had the target on their back for the better part of the entire season. They this is you look at this playoff run, you look at their trajectory over the past couple of years. This is only their second playoff run. Like, we saw how many years it took the Pistons to get past, to get to the finals, losing to the Celtics. We saw how many years it took the Chicago Bulls to get past the Pistons and get to the finals and finally win a championship. Um, you can go, even the Lakers in '96, uh, even the Lakers, um, acquiring Shaq in '96, drafting Kobe, they had to go what 4 years. They went 3 years before they won a championship. They had to go through what playoff run in '97, '98, '97, '98, '99. They went through, like I said, three full playoff runs with an established roster, a talented roster, a veteran laden roster for the most part. And it took them 3 full seasons before they got the championship in 2000. Golden State goes through 2012, 2013, 2014, 13 and 14. So they won it in their third. They won it in their third playoff run. This is very rare. Like I said, this is only the second playoff run. I don't even count the play-in a couple of years ago, and the play-in that they had a couple of years ago in 23. Last year, they lose in the second round. That's a big jump to go from second round to winning an NBA championship. We saw how many steps Boston had to take. Like Boston from 2018, Tatum's rookie year up until last year, 2024. How many Eastern Conference Finals, losing the NBA Finals in 2022. So this is this quick of a jump from a team that was in the lottery, that was semi tanking a couple of years ago, to winning a championship that you would ever see. It really was one of the more remarkable and quickest championship turnarounds in NBA history, and they did it with their defense. You look back at look at their last three closeout games. Again, I don't count the Memphis series was a scrimmage, it was a walkover. Denver 93 points, Minnesota they hold to 94 points, and Indiana they hold to 91 points. And again, they answered Oklahoma City. Again, we'll talk about Indiana. We'll discuss Indiana in a down. We'll discuss Indiana because we have a whole segment for the Pacers and what they did. But you look back at this run that they had. They answered all the question marks. They answered every bell, down 2-1 in multiple series. You win multiple game sevens. You uh, go through the Western Conference. You go through, like I said, Joker, Anthony Edwards, and you beat a Pacers team that, frankly, we know is a special team, despite coming up short in Game 7. I don't like I said in today's NBA. In today's NBA, this is as well constructed of a team that you can possibly have. You have a superstar, MVP, a legit top two player in SGA. You have two budding stars in Jalen Williams and Chet Holmgren, who both are going to be all stars at some point in their careers. At both of them at the same time. Uh, Jalen Williams, of course, has been. Jalen Williams was the second best player in this series, um, and has already been All NBA defensive wise and All NBA third team All NBA this year. They have again a plethora of wing defenders, quality depth off the bench, and again they answered every bell. And listen, I don't care about the fact that I think the NBA's transition is complete with this championship. I think the NBA won with this finals. If you're a basketball fan, this series is the best series. This was the best final series since 2016, without question. If you looked at the last 10 years, the finals have been shitty, to be honest with you. A few 5 game series, a few series that were even that went 6 games that were not that competitive. Even going back to the bubble with the Miami Lakers series, you never thought Miami had a chance in that series, despite pushing it to 6 games. So we had some shaky playoff series, some shaky NBA final series since 2019. Really, the only finals that was somewhat captivating and really doesn't get talked about enough was the Milwaukee Phoenix series in 2021. That was an excellent series. Milwaukee coming back from 2 games to nothing, and Giannis with Giannis with one of the great finals performances in recent memory. But that was still during the pandemic. And it didn't get talked about nowhere near enough as being an excellent final series. This was to me the best final series I've seen since 2016, even better than 2019. Because remember, in 2019 you had Durant. That was that had a chance, that had the potential to be a great series, but Durant goes down, Klay Thompson goes down, it gets pushed to 6 games. But that series, in terms of level of play, in terms of quality of play, the adjustments that were made during this series, the swings and momentum during the series. I mean, both teams battling. Like, Indiana comes out, shocks OKC in game 1, had OKC down 2 games to 1. Then you see OKC rally back to go up 3 games to 2 and 3 games to 2 and seemingly be in control. And I thought, even though there was a point where I said this is probably going 7, I thought OKC probably was gonna win game 6. And it turned out, with Halliburton with the calf injury, and Indiana absolutely embarrasses OKC in game 6, and and pushes to a game 7. So this was from a tactical standpoint, from a just competitive standpoint, from a just two teams pushing each other's buttons. Um, this was as good a series again as I've seen in a decade. The NBA, this is the most watched finals since the 2019 finals. That was the Toronto Golden State. ESPN, their playoff coverage in terms of ratings were up 10%. So the NBA absolutely won this postseason. There's no two ways about it. And again, you have a team that, and we'll talk more about some teams that could possibly challenge them next year. But you know, I don't see right now. I'm looking at OKC and their potential to win multiple championships. I can't see a scenario where, unless injuries withstanding, we know a lot could happen with the injuries we've seen. What happened to Jason Tatum, Tyrese Halliburton. We see how quickly things fortunes can change in the NBA with these injuries. But I'm telling you right now, injuries withstanding, I don't see how they don't repeat next year, and I don't see how they don't win 3 out of the next 5 to 6 championships. I just can't. Like again, the ultimate equalizer is Wembanyama. That is next year will give you a sense of, because I think Wemby is going to take a major jump next year, and we'll see what San Antonio does. But even I mean that roster is still a couple of years away. Like I don't they they're unless they go out and get Giannis, which is a possibility. We'll see what moves they make. But they're right now, as it currently stands, they are a couple years away with Wembanyama and the young talent that they do have. They have a tremendous amount of young talent and guys that have a chance to grow together and become an excellent team. But I don't see it. I like the gap right now between Oklahoma City and the rest of the NBA is stark, especially with the injuries to Jason Tatum and Tyrese Halliburton. Like I could, you could sell me on a scenario that Indiana could come back with, if Tyrese Halliburton doesn't get hurt, that Indiana could come back and win the finals next year. You could sell me on that. You could sell me that Boston, Tatum's healthy. Boston gets back to the finals next year and, reclaims their crown over OKC as a possibility. You could sell me on that. But with those two injuries and with the just unevenness of the Western Conference right now. The Western Conference, everybody talks about the East being open. It is, but the Western Conference, like, where's, we saw what they did to Minnesota, and Minnesota's going to have a hard time improving. We saw what happened with Denver. That series shouldn't have been as close as it was in terms of going to 7 games. It shouldn't have went to 7 games. That series should not. Oklahoma City should have put Denver away earlier in that series, but they were still going through their growing pains. I don't see a scenario how does Denver get better? And we'll talk a lot more about Denver. We got plenty of stuff on the Denver Nuggets. But I'm looking at the West. I mean, the Lakers, the Lakers, the Lakers got destroyed by Minnesota. Like Lakers aren't championship contenders right now. The Clippers aren't contenders. Those two teams and Golden State. I don't see it. I don't see it. The West past Oklahoma City, you could say is potentially wide open past Oklahoma City, and we'll talk more about Houston. Right now, Houston clearly is the number 2 team in the Western Conference right now. Clearly, and I don't think it's relatively even close as we stand right here, right now. And again, a lot of things can happen with these trades. We've already seen some major names traded. We've already seen some big trades the past couple of weeks. We're going to see a whole lot more. It's going to be a wild summer in the NBA from that standpoint. We might even see some with the draft coming up tomorrow. We might even see some major trades coming in this week. And I still think at some point in the summer, I believe Giannis will be traded. At some point this summer. I don't think Giannis, and I could be dead wrong, but I don't think Giannis enters, even despite what's happened transpired in the Eastern Conference. I don't think chances are I think it's basically 50-50 that Giannis enters the season as a Milwaukee Buck. But I don't see how anybody again, there's a major gap between Oklahoma City and the rest of the league. And I don't see how that gap gets closed this year. So they, to me, are absolute overwhelming favorites to repeat. Overwhelming. Now, I haven't said that. I haven't said that since Golden State repeated in 2018. I thought it was almost a foregone conclusion that they were going to repeat in 2019. Again, but injuries happen. Durant and Klay Thompson go down. The attrition of playing in the finals 5 years straight caught up to him, and Toronto took advantage of it and won the championship. But this team, there is no attrition with this team. This team, again, this is the youngest team in the league. They have 13 first round picks. They have 13 the most first round picks. They have this European point guard who didn't play this year, Topic, who is supposed to be very good. Their player like Jalen Brown and Chet are only going to get better. SGA can get better. Like the SGA is what will be when the season starts, will be 27. Case and Wallace, they have a bunch of young players who can only get better and only will get better. We haven't this is not the best of this team that we've seen. Like they are in content. They could potentially win 70 games if they really want to. They could potentially win 70 games and challenge the Warriors single season wins record of 73 and 9. That's on the table. It's absolutely on the table. So congratulations to them. They again, they are a throwback from a standpoint. They played some of the best defense considering the era. We are in an offensive era with the 3-point shooting, the shot creation, as many playmakers as you have in the league, as much talent that you have in the league. Considering especially much offensive talent that you have in the league, they played some of the best defense that you will ever see. It's hard to compare them. This is the best defensive team I've seen in the past 20 years. Like they're the best defensive team. Better than the Celtics in '08, better than any of Golden State's championship teams and them defensively. Like you probably have to go back to probably the '04 Pistons. They're the best defensive team since the '04 Pistons. And again, it's hard to compare them with the '04 Pistons because the game it was a different era. Those games we played, the 3-point shot was not as prevalent, and you had a situation where Detroit was winning games like 85-80. Like the game is a completely different. But the NBA was at a completely different place in 2040 than it is in 2025. But this is one of the all-time great defensive teams. Just when you look at the versatility, when the rim protection, the on the having they have on guys on the ball defensive players. Literally had no weaknesses defensively, none, and they could turn up the pressure. Like I said, when they had to dial up the pressure, when they were backs against the wall, shots weren't falling, they dialed up the defense, and no one could handle it for 4 games. So congratulations to them. Again, we'll go into next season as absolutely overwhelming favorites to capture their second straight championship. The deep dive, Kevin Durant, of course, was traded to Houston on Sunday. Durant goes to Houston. Phoenix gets Dillon Brooks, Jalen Green, number 10 pick, and also 5 second-round picks. And 5 second-round picks. Houston, absolutely. Like if you listen, I don't think a lot of people were knocking Phoenix as far as what they got back in return. The bottom line here is the demand, the market just wasn't out there for Kevin Durant. Like no one was paying a king's ransom to get Durant at this stage in his career. Yes, he's still legitimately a top 10 to 12 player, 12 to 15. It's still, I mean, he's a top 15 player. That goes without saying. Could still score with anybody, but this is the twilight. This is the twilight, the golden age of his career. He's getting close to the 18th hole. There's still a golf term. And the guy, he's had trouble staying healthy the last 4 to 5 years. He's old. He's played a ton of minutes. He's been in the league since 2007. It's a long time ago. Approaching year 19 in the league, 37 years old. So Phoenix was not going to get anywhere near what they gave up to get him 2 years ago when they made the trade, when they traded him to when they acquired him from Brooklyn. That just wasn't going to happen. Remember, they gave up, Phoenix gave up Mikal Bridges, Jay Crowder, 4 first-round unprotected picks, and I'm leaving out Cam Johnson. Yeah, that's so Phoenix, that trade obviously cost them. You win 1 playoff series and during your 10-year, then you, of course, make the Bradley Beal trade, which put them in basketball hell for in essence the rest of the decade. Phoenix is fucked till 2030, 2031. They're cooked. for the rest of the decade from that standpoint. And absolutely, and really should just blow up the team and trade Devin Booker and where trade Devin Booker to have any chance of moving forward. But we'll discuss that. That's another topic for another podcast from that standpoint for the Phoenix Suns. As far as Houston goes, as far as Kevin Durant goes, this is the last chance for him to redeem what has been the last 5, 6 years of his career. Really been he's been a non-factor in the postseason. He's won one playoff series. He's won two playoff series since he left Golden State. 2021, first round 2021 against Boston, and 2 years ago in 23, 2 years ago in 23, before getting bounced out. Against Denver in 23. So two playoff wins in the last 6 years. He's been hurt. He's made decisions. He has not made the best basketball decisions as far as the teams that he's chosen. Brooklyn turned out to be Brooklyn turned out to be a disaster. I know there were some circumstances with Kyrie and injuries that really assisted, contributed to that. But again, he chose to hitch his wagon to Kyrie Irving, and that didn't. He left Steph Curry in essence for Kyrie Irving, and it didn't work out at all. He forces his way to Phoenix. They trade basically everybody except Devin Booker and DeAndre Ayton. It doesn't work out. They get destroyed. They get absolutely destroyed in 25 Minnesota in 2024. Lose, a tough but mostly non-competitive series to Denver in 23. I know they came back to tie it in at 2, but Denver, nobody ever thought that they had a serious chance of beating Denver in that series. And now, in this year, they missed the playoffs, 10 games under 500. It's an embarrassing season, toxic situation in Phoenix, to say the least. Now you're reading stories of fist fights, or DeMarcus Cousins basically says he has a source on the team that said that there were some fist fights over the course during the season. Durant, rebuked, rebuffed all those claims by DeMarcus Cousins. But anyway, it was a horrible situation with the Phoenix Suns. So Durant gets on this Houston team that is absolutely loaded with talent. Houston in this trade was able to keep all of their prime assets. They only, like I said, got rid of the number 10 pick, and that again only moved the number 10 pick to slightly above average role players, and you keep basically the better part of your assets. You don't trade any of the young talent that was desired, that other teams were coveting. So you look at this team. This is a loaded team, and if you're Kevin Durant, it is not enough for him to go. Now, can they beat Oklahoma City in a playoff series? Probably not. Probably not. But if you're Kevin Durant, this Houston is the type of team that could really push Oklahoma City. Great defensively, physical. You have a guy in Durant who has championship experience, championship pedigree, who is not going to be a perfect fit for Houston in terms of what they needed as a go-to guy in isolation basketball, one-on-one, and offensive bucket. The offensive bucket. But it's not even about what Kevin Durant does on the court with Houston. It is going to be Kevin Durant, the leader, that determines how successful this last chapter of his career will be. As of right now, I'm telling you right now, I think when I look at the Kevin Durant's legacy as we currently stand, one of the greatest scorers of all time, top 15 player, but he underachieved. And the reason why I say that is, considering his talent level, I think Kevin Durant is a top five talent of all time in terms of just pure talent. The shooting, the ball handling, just the defense. I legitimately think Kevin Durant is a top one of the top five talents I've ever seen on the basketball court. Considering his talent and considering how many great players he's played with, should have more than two championships. And the fact that he left Golden State is like that's going. I mean, that's a black mark. That is a black mark on your resume. And again, Wilt Chamberlain, Shaquille O'Neal are two of the top 10 players of all time, without question. Two of the most dominant forces of all time. But you know what? They both underachieved considering their talent for different reasons. Shaq with his conditioning, Wilt Chamberlain in terms of his mentality. Both of them should have won more titles. Period. And that's why Shaq is not mentioned in the GOAT conversation because of his conditioning or lack thereof. Kevin Durant, for his choices, for his mentality, Kevin Durant's talent and his ability to play this long in the NBA. And like I said, look at how many great players he's played with over the course of his career. You're talking about Steph Curry, you're talking about James Harden, you're talking about Kyrie Irving, you're talking about Russell Westbrook, you're talking about Devin Booker. You're talking about just, and I now you mentioned the role players, but to only have two championships, I think is. I'm sorry. I think that it is I think he's let down. I think he's underachieved to. I think he should have at least three or four. Like he could have won at least two more in Golden State easily. In 2020, he would have had they won 2022 without him. They would have ran through Boston. They would have ran through the playoffs that year with him. Maybe maybe even Denver in 2023. I'm just like there were some championships that were left on the table by him personally leaving Golden State. But now he has an opportunity. You got this young, talented team who who even more so than his scoring needs leadership. This team outside of Fred VanVleet, this team has, and Adams has played in the finals before, but outside Van Fleet, they have no championship. They have no championship experience. Okay, they similar to Oklahoma City, they have again their best players for the most part are like under 20 or 25 and under. You have a top coach in Ime Udoka who's been to the finals before, who will holds his players accountable. Again, he had the this is it as far as chances goes for Durant to really put the perfect ending to on his legacy and really in some ways rewrite his legacy. He goes out there in the next, and I give them, he'll sign a 2 year extension shortly for by between 112 and 124 million dollars. I say that I just don't envision a 40-year-old Kevin Durant being that dude like LeBron has been, even being at that level. I give this a 2 year window. Say this, I get this year and the following year. This is a 2 year window for him. Not for Houston. Houston's fine. They have a, this is like I said. This was an extremely low risk high reward trade for Houston. They have, like I said, I think there's talking reports around that team that they are high on Reed Shepard. Amon Thompson could be like the sky's the limit. His ceiling is there. I don't know if there is a ceiling for Amon Thompson. Like I said, we talked about he actually could like be Scottie Pippen like in terms of his game. We talked about Jalen Williams. They compared Jalen Williams to Scottie Pippen in terms of his development. I think Amin Thompson has Scottie Pippen like ability in terms of stylistically his game. So again, the talent on this team is ridiculous. This team is loaded with talent. And if I'm Kevin Durant, if I'm Ime Udoka, I'm challenging Durant right away, telling Durant right away, you have to lead this team. And again, it's not about the rah rah yelling, getting in face, that type of center of attention or talent. No, you have to teach them. You can teach them how to win. You know how to win. That is the thing that's missing from Kevin Durant's resume is leadership. Leadership. He didn't lead the Golden State Warriors to the championship. He led Oklahoma City Thunder as I believe, a 24-year-old, 23, 24-year-old to the finals in 2012. Steph Curry led that team to the championship in 17 to 18. Durant was the best player, but that was Steph Curry's team as far as leadership goes. So I think Durant has an enormous opportunity. Obviously, I love the trade for Houston. Like they have, like it's just a matter of, to me, what do they do with the Fred VanVleet contract? He'll probably be resigned. They'll probably restructure the deal to where they don't get into the second apron. Right now, they're not in the second apron right now. Um, and the development again is going to be this their season is going to be predicated on the development because Kevin Durant is going to fit in perfectly. It's going to be predicated on the development of Amin Thompson, um, Şengün, Jabari Smith, Reed Shepard, those guys, and Tory Eason. Again, these guys. Listen, Şengün is 22. Jabari Smith is 22. Reed Shepard's 21. Amin Thompson's 22. Tory Eason's 24. So I think that for Durant, he gets an enormous opportunity um, to kind of right the wrongs of the last 5 to 6 years of his career because it has been these last 5 years 6 years of his career has been a shit show. Let's be honest with you. It's been a circus. The online going back and forth online, the just not being a factor in the playoffs. He's turned into, I can make a case that he's been a empty calories player. Like he's put up numbers, but they have not impacted winning. Nowhere near to the level of a guy who's going to go down at worst one of the top 15 players of all time at worst. And again, as far as Houston goes, Houston is the type of team. I'm looking at teams that thinking about who can challenge OKC. And again, I still there's a question mark about San Antonio. I believe Wembanyama is going to take a major jump. I got to see how the rest of I can't put them in that conversation until I see how what they do with the rest of with their roster either this year, either in the with free agency or during the trade deadline come next February. But Houston is the type of team, the types of teams that are going to bother Oklahoma City. You have to have you're not going to replicate what they've done. This is impossible. You're not getting that type of depth and that type of top end talent, young top end talent with a led by MVP. It's just not going to happen. Like the amount of two-way players they had, the amount of the quality of defensive wings they have. They have, you'll be most teams don't barely have one quality defensive wing. They have about four or five. You're just not going to be able to replicate that. I think Houston, with its physicality, with the fact that I think you have to be there. I think you have to be Oklahoma City's kryptonite. Like Indiana gave Oklahoma City all types of shit because of the precision, the passing, the pace of play, having a point guard that could take advantage of an overly aggressive defense. Denver pushed Oklahoma City because of their having a basketball savant, their basketball intelligence, their precision offensively. I mean, again, Denver and Indiana were two of the best offensive teams in basketball and put the pressure on Oklahoma City from that standpoint. And both those teams improved defensively over the course during the playoffs as well, and dramatically, especially Indiana over the course of the last 3 months of the season, post January first, from January 1st on. I think Houston can challenge Oklahoma City with their size. They have like you have, you bring in Durant. Durant is basically 7 feet. Sengun is basically 7 foot. Adams 6'11". Jabari Smith 6'11". Amen Thompson at the small forward 6'7". Torrey Eason 6'8". Cam Whitmore 6'7". I mean, they have tremendous athleticism and size, and physicality. They're physical as hell. Like they're the type of team that can just dirty up a game, pound them on the boards. Um, you got wings. They have wings that they can. They have guys that they can throw at SGA. So I definitely think Houston by far right now to me. Again, I will see what happens with Denver, but to me, I think Houston is the second team that could challenge Oklahoma City. I don't think they can beat them, but that could be possibly Oklahoma City's kryptonite in the Western Conference. But getting back to Durant, again, Durant has an enormous opportunity here with this team. He is not a. This was the best possible situation for Durant to lead a team as well as having a chance if Oklahoma slips up to possibly challenge for a championship. Best of the 21st century, the 2025 Indiana Pacers. So I saved the Pacers stuff when we were discussing the finals earlier in this podcast for a reason. It's very rare that the losing team in a championship is more compelling than the actual winner. But I will, like, 10 years from now, 20 years from now, when I think about the 2020 finals. Now, it could be possible that if Oklahoma City runs off like 5 championships in 10 years or some ridiculous dynasty, that you have to put that at the center of where it started in 2025. But for the most part, I feel like 20 years from now, 30 years from now, we're going to look back at the 2025 NBA Finals, and the first thing that's going to come to mind will be the Indiana Pacers. This Indiana team came into the season with the 17th best odds to win a championship. You're talking about a team, that had a 15-point comeback in each series. They go through Giannis in the first round. They go through Garland and Donovan Mitchell, and they go through, Mobley and Donovan Mitchell in the second round. Then you go through Jalen Brunson, Karl Anthony Towns, in the conference finals. Get to a series, the NBA Finals, where no one gave them a chance. I mean, no one gave them a chance. There were some predictions. Some people predicted a sweep. Most people predicted a series, including myself, that the series would be over in 5. And they brought the best and worst out of Oklahoma City. They challenged every fiber of Oklahoma City's being. They really made them extremely uncomfortable. There are times in this series where Oklahoma City looked lost. You look at that game 6. I mean, they were up 30 points in that game and ended up destroying Oklahoma City in that game, to a point to where there were some people that, there are a couple of people that were leaning towards picking them to beat Oklahoma City in the game. Of course, that wasn't going to happen once the Halliburton injury occurred. But you look at you look at the totality of their team, the way they did it. 9 players averaged at least 14 minutes a game in the playoffs. They had 7 players and barely missed having 8 players average double figures in the NBA Finals. Just think about that for a second. 8 players averaging close to 8 players averaging double figures in the NBA Finals. And you have this style of basketball that is uncharacteristic. Like they brought the fast break, they brought the fast break back. Like teams, you look at the NBA now, teams selectively run. This is a team that runs for 48 minutes, and it absolutely drove teams mentally and physically crazy. There was the reason why all those comebacks were the reason why all those the main reason why all those comebacks happened each series because they would just wear you down. They never stopped coming, and I think that I can generally say, I can honestly say this is one of the more mentally tough teams I've ever seen. Like even in that game 7, Halliburton was cooking the first quarter. He has 9 points in 7 minutes. He tears his Achilles tendon, and they had a lead at halftime. Of course, they had the bad third quarter. That was when the game was decided when they were outscored, I believe, 34-20. Uh, had like 8 turnovers in that quarter, and that was a ball game. Fourth quarter was a coronation. I know they ended up cutting into 12, but the fourth quarter they were down by as much as 21 points. Again, that game was decided in the third quarter. But this is one of the most compelling teams, one of the most memorable teams that you will ever see, uh, win or lose in recent NBA history. And they never stopped. They never stopped playing. They never stopped. And again, um, you give credit to, we talk about Sam Presti, rightfully so, as being the top GM, the top executive in the game right now. Kevin Pritchard is not that far behind. Mathurin, Nembhard. Nembhard was a 31st pick. The trades that they made, the player development. I mean, TJ McConnell is out there giving one of the better bench performances we've seen probably since Ginobili going back to 2014. I mean, they literally in Game 7 they blitzed T.J. McConnell. They double teamed T.J. McConnell because he was cooking them. The last 2 games, he absolutely destroyed Oklahoma City at times, especially in the third quarters of both those games. So this is a special team. Um, again, so as an NBA fan, they created so many moments in these playoffs. I mean, the game 1 against the Knicks, 138-136. Like that basketball game. You'll never. I mean, I'll remember that basketball game as long as I live. And Rick Carlisle, uh, obviously, comes within one game of whether of being probably considered if he won this pulled this off for the second time in his career, as he did in 2011, beating the Heatles. You know, one game away from being called probably one of the top 10 great coaches of all time. It didn't happen, but again, Carlisle was never outcoached during any time during this postseason, and he pressed every button, pulled every lever. Like the Oklahoma City earned that championship to a T. They actually earned that championship, and certainly unfortunate that they won't get a chance to defend their Eastern Conference championship and possibly challenge for an NBA championship with what transpired with Tyrese Halliburton with his injury, with the tearing of the Achilles. Um, One of those things again, a tragic injury to say the least. You're talking about one of the bright young stars of the NBA, a legit superstar, a legit top 15 player. Maybe he probably would have ended higher if not for the injury. He probably would have been considered, I think, a top 10 player if not for this injury. So again, the Pacers will be back next year. They'll be a playoff team. Be interesting to see what they do in terms of Miles Turner and what have you. But there's a ton of young talent on that team. If Halliburton can come back anywhere near to what he was, they will certainly be back in the championship mix come 26, 27 season. 26, 27 season. And one last thing, thinking about memorable teams who didn't win a championship, there are two teams I could think of that were memorable for not winning a championship, but it was for the wrong reason. And that was the '04 Lakers and the 2007 New England Patriots. So they were memorable, probably more memorable than their opponents who won it, but for the wrong reason. Lakers for the dismantling of the then dynasty, Shaq going to Miami, that being the last time Shaq and Kobe would ever play together. Um, and that's just, that series ended. That version of the Lakers, Bill Jackson retires, briefly retires until 2000 for a couple of years. Uh, for a couple of years until he came back for his second stint and won two more championships. Uh, Shaq and Kobe can go their separate ways. You see Karl Malone and Gary Payton. Malone retires. Payton goes to Miami, wins the championship eventually. Again, and the 18-1 Patriots. So I can't think of a team in recent sports memories in the four major sports that will be as memorable than this team for losing a finals, for finishing run up in the finals in a championship series. Real thoughts. I'm doing NBA, my annual NBA's top five players, and I'll leave you a couple things with regards to McGrady and the Denver Nuggets. Top five players to end the season. Number one, Nikola Jokic. I think is pretty. This one was pretty not hard at all. Had one of the great statistical offensive seasons of all time. Finished second in MVP. Had the MVP caliber season, as we all know, and again pushed the now champion Oklahoma City to 7 games with a battered roster, with a then interim head coach, um, the best player in the world. SGA is right there, but this guy is just a savant of basketball IQ, passing, offensive. Again, from an offensive standpoint, he's basically the perfect player from an offensive standpoint. Like I said, there's nothing he can't do offensively. He is the number one player in the league right now. SGA number two, one of the great guard seasons, maybe probably the best guard seasons. You gotta go back to '97 Jordan. Probably the best guard season since '97 or '96 Jordan. Um, Two-way player. Was the best player in the playoffs this year. Again, only 26 years old. He just is death by a thousand cuts. Nothing flashy. Doesn't do anything outside of what he can. Doesn't try to do too much. Again, every big moment in these playoffs, he stepped up to the challenge. Down 2-1 in Denver. He has the big fourth quarter in Denver to tie the series at 2. Down 2-1 in Indiana on the road, big fourth quarter, 15-point fourth quarter, ties the series at 2. It was great against Denver the last three games in that series. Completely outplays Anthony Edwards in the Minnesota series and was obviously the best player in this series in the NBA Finals. Like I said, this is the prototypical. This is a superstar franchise player. This is the type of guy that you want on your team. Not low maintenance, no maintenance. Goes out there, plays ball, durable. At this point, I mean, plays. He's going to play 70 plus games and really empowers his teammates when it's necessary. He's on the had the 0-assist game, then he bounces back during the series, had a bad game 6, and then bounces back with just a beautiful and ugly performance at the same time. Ugly in a good way. Um, in the finals, in the not the finals, but in Game 7 with the 29 and 12 assists. And for most of the game, he had zero turnovers. That he had 12 assists, one turnover. I know he only shot 8 for 27, but his defense, his leadership was uncanny during that game and during that series and during the playoffs. And you look at him, you look at this guy. Um, Look what he said about Jalen Williams on the podium during the post game when they were getting the trophy presentation. That's a leader. That's an absolute leader. He empowers. Basically said I should share this MVP with Jalen Williams. That's a leader. Like guys are going to enjoy playing with him. Doesn't take shots at his teammates publicly or publicly or through Twitter and some of the shit that we see. So he clearly is the number 2 player right now. Number 3, Giannis. We take Giannis for granted. Giannis in these postseason, it was a short stay because Indiana took him out in 5, but Giannis was just dominant during that series, 33 and 14. He had another season. He goes 30, basically 30, 12, and 6 on 60% shooting. Plays excellent defense, of course, as he always does. And again, it'd be very interesting to see the next chapter of his career, because he wants to win another championship, but it's not going to happen in Milwaukee. But he is without question like a clear cut number 3 player in the world right now. For Anthony Edwards, I know he obviously didn't have the greatest series in the conference finals for the second straight year, but the bottom line is only 23 years old, definitely a two-way player, a guy that has gotten that. You look at Minnesota's history of playoff series before Anthony Edwards versus after, it is night and day. Getting to back-to-back conference finals in the Western Conference is not easy, nothing to snooze at all. Again, he's only going to get better. He's going to take another leap or two. And really, is frankly right now the best American hope for to break this MVP stranglehold by the European players and possibly just has a chance to be the face of the league. He's going to be in that conversation, but he is without question to me right now finishes as the fourth best player best player in the game right now. 5, Luka Doncic. Only reason Luka is 5. Jason Tatum's hurt. I can't put Jason Tatum in there because he's injured. Luka still is a guy that drives, that is a offensive machine. We understand what he has to do from a conditioning standpoint, from a leadership standpoint. Hopefully that'll be rectified during the summer. I don't care about him doing leg presses. I don't care about people mentioning how much weight that he's allegedly lost or the alleged change of diet. That doesn't matter. Time will tell from that standpoint. But he is without question a top 5 player in this league right now. So that is your end of the season top 5 players of the NBA season. Couple of NBA things before I let you go. Tracy Mcgrady was on First Take. I want to say late last week. And got into this conversation about ring culture. Of course, we know, what LeBron said on his Mind the Game podcast, and we know LeBron in many ways was full of shit when talking about discussing ring culture. But Tracy McGrady had an interesting thing said something interesting in regards to Kobe Bryant, basically saying that he could have that if you put him with Shaq, he wins a championship. Switch him places with Kobe, he wins a championship. He never was put in a position to succeed. Never given the opportunity in regards to getting a ring. Here's what I said about Tracy McGrady. First of all, a couple of things. Tracy McGrady left Vince Carter. Okay. Tracy McGrady in summer 2000 wanted his own team. Vince Carter at the time, Vince Carter is a star in the league. He's headed towards being, Vince Carter is like one of the biggest stars in the league at the time, perennial All Star in the Eastern Conference. If Tracy McGrady stays with Vince Carter, I don't know who stops them in the Eastern Conference. Remember, the Pacers were old, the Knicks were old. Those teams were done in 2000 for the most part, as far as compete for challenging for championships. They both at that point had aged out and were kind of reloading. Sixers, they were Iverson and everybody else. Milwaukee, yeah, the East was wide open at that time. And listen, this was yeah, New Jersey was still like New Jersey was coming. Like New Jersey was coming. Jason Kidd gets on New Jersey. Jason, and this was like Jason Kidd gets New Jersey, changes them. Very good team, but like Toronto's, if I keep Toronto, if I keep Tracy McGrady with Vince Carter, Toronto is right there with Jersey, right there with Milwaukee and Philadelphia as the contending teams in the Eastern Conference without question. So, but he wanted his own team and no state tax, okay, in Florida. And of course, he was from Florida, from that area, from Florida. And again, he had some horrible luck. They thought, Grant Hill, he and Grant Hill were going to be dynamic together. Grant Hill only played like 47 games during his tenure with Orlando. They don't get Tim Duncan. Yeah, Grady put up some excellent numbers, made All Stars, All NBAs, had some top 10, top 5, top 10 MVP finishes, but never got past the first round in Orlando or for his career until he was basically done playing on that San Antonio team in 2013, where he wasn't even nowhere near the rotation. Oh, McGrady, without that time he spent in San Antonio, is 0-7 in the playoffs. McGrady had two playoff series where his teams blew 3-1 lead, 0-3 and 0-5. In 0-3, I'll give him a pass. That Piston team with Chauncey Billups, that they were clearly a better team than Orlando. I could make a case that they should have been down 3-1 to that Orlando team. I'll give them a pass on that one. And they got destroyed the last 3 games. Not giving them a pass on 2005 against Dallas. That was a 4-5 series. They're up 3-1 and they lose game 7 by like 40 points. And it's not like you didn't have talent around you. Yao Ming was 21-7 in that series and shot 65% in that series. So Tracy McGrady just did not get it done. Period. It wasn't. He played with good players over the course of his career. Played with Yao Ming. Played with some of those Houston teams late in his career were good teams. One of them pushed the Lakers without him to Game 7 in 2009, and frankly was the Lakers' toughest series. Okay, during that championship run that year, when the Lakers were like 65-17. They were that Houston team. You go back, look back. I believe it was in the second round. That was the Lakers' toughest series during that playoff run. Without McGrady, McGrady didn't play. Okay, like listen, he should have never invoked Kobe Bryant's name. Kobe Bryant, Tracy McGrady. Maybe you could have won one championship with Shaq. You're not three-peat. You weren't three-peating. And let alone taking a team with Paul Gasol and going to 3 straight finals and winning 2 championships. That just wasn't going to happen. McGrady, again, had opportunities to get it done, and he didn't get it done. I mean, it's something to be said for a guy to be 0-7 in the playoffs as the team's best player. I mean, that was that. It is what it is. What it is. I mean, McGrady made the Hall of Fame. Cool. A lot of guys make it. Probably too many in the NBA. I have no problem. Really don't have any problem. Even though those last 5 to 6 years of his career were rough, especially the last 5 years, I don't have a major problem with him being in the Hall of Fame. But there are guys who, for whatever reason, don't reach that next level. Injuries, mentality. He was one of those guys. He was one of those guys. Like at his apex, one of the most talented players in the league, without question, led the league in scoring, but was not a winning player. I'll leave it at that. I'll put it from that standpoint. And it's not even about You don't have to have a championship or win a championship to be a winning player. I'll give you a perfect example. Karl Malone was a winning player. Karl Malone played 19 years, and I'm not a Karl Malone fan by any stretch of imagination. Not a big Karl Malone fan, but he was a great player. Top 50, top 75, dream team, the whole nine. But Karl Malone played 19 years. His teams made the playoffs all 19 years. He was in the conference finals 6 times in his career, 5 times as the best player. He was in conference semifinals 10 times. So for half his career, not only did his teams go to the playoffs, they went to at least, he went to 2 finals as the best player. He went to at least, they won at least one playoff series for half his career. That's winning. Yeah, that's a winning player. So I don't need to hear from McGrady about, I didn't have the opportunity and these excuses and knocking. Am I diminished because I don't have a ring? No, McGrady's not diminished because he doesn't have a ring. He's diminished because you never won a playoff series. That's why I get diminished. And there are levels to this. There are plenty of great players, plenty of all time great players who didn't win a ring. Like all time great Hall of Fame, Dream Team members, top 75. I can go through a litany of them. But for the most part, those guys were winning players. Stockton, Malone, Ewing, Barkley, those guys were winning players. When they got the opportunity, they led their team to the finals. Barkley and Iverson at least have one finals appearance. Okay, Ewing made the finals a couple times and had a stretch in his career where the Knicks won at least one playoff series for like 8 straight years, with him being their best player for the most part. So those are winning players from that standpoint. I mean, again, McGrady does not get diminished. No, matter of fact, when we have conversations about ringless players, his name doesn't get mentioned because, frankly, he's not on that level. Like he doesn't get like he doesn't even get mentioned with the John Stocktons, the Patrick Ewings, Karl Malones, Allen Iversons, those players. It doesn't even get mentioned in the conversation in terms of not having a ring. So I'll say that from that stand about Mr. McGrady here. Last thing before I let you go. So very interesting doings in Denver. Denver Nuggets have a press conference introducing their two new vice presidents, which is odd to say the least. Jonathan Wallace and Ben Tinsler. Josh Kroenke, who is of course the VP of the sports entertainment of the Denver Nuggets and all those Denver teams of the basically Kroenke Enterprises, of those enterprises, basically goes out there and drops a bombshell when he didn't have to. So a question gets asked about, well, for a couple of things, let's set up from the standpoint that because there were two things of note discussing Jokic. Um, Joker is contract eligible, extension eligible this summer, right? So he could sign a 3-year, $212 million contract this summer, or wait next summer to sign a 4-year, $293 million contract. Now, if he signs it this year, okay, in essence would take like 70. In essence would take like he would leave, $71 million on the table. That will allow Denver some more flexibility to make other moves to improve their roster this year. But if Joker waits till next year, then Denver basically is fucked. Okay, in terms of improving their roster, because next year Jamal Murray's max extension kicks in, and he'll be making like $50 million. Murray next year will be making $50 million versus, yeah, Jamal Murray's max extension kicks in this year, by the way, at $50 million. And Porter, they will have no flexibility to make moves with those contracts with Joker, Murray, and Porter's contract. Um, if Joker waits to sign that extension. So that's something to keep your eyes on if you're a Denver fan, or you're an NBA fan in general. If Joker passes up on that contract extension, but that wasn't even the most. That wasn't. And Kroenke mentioned that during the press conference, saying that there's a chance that he will turn it down. We're going to offer to him. He may turn it down. He may not. But that wasn't even remotely close to the most startling thing that Kroenke said, especially about Joker. They asked a question about the CBA, the challenges of the CBA that was put in 2 years ago, especially with these new aprons, these new aprons, and we know a lot of constrictions that the second apron has on teams in regards to movement, free agency, draft picks, and the whole nine. He basically, for whatever reason, says that if the wrong player got hurt, there could be a possibility, there could exist a possibility that Joker could be traded, that they would have to trade Joker. I don't, again, I don't understand why, even if that's in your head, even if that is the worst case scenario, I don't understand why you ever come out your mouth and say that. If you want to come out there and say that, yes, the second apron is very challenging to navigate. And by the way, this is something else that jumped out too. Kroenke mentioned that he's not even sure that the second apron is a hard cap, which again, I don't know how anybody working in the NBA. I mean, it kind of goes to show you how complicated this new apron is. Like teams are still. I mean, these guys do this for a living. They study this like 24/7. They got capologists. They got guys that study this, and they still are trying to figure it out. So that jumped out, but I didn't understand why Kroenke even mentioned Joker from that standpoint. Even if that is true, first of all, there's nothing to me. There's nothing to me in my being that could, if I'm working for the Denver Nuggets, that would force me to even think about trading Nikolai Joker. Nothing. I don't care about second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth apron. No. What are we talking about here? It's insane. The idea that that would be the only way that you can get out of apron hell is by trading him. Like what? Are you have you explored every possibility outside of that? Like I don't know what was going through Josh Kroenke's mind. I don't Nikolai Nikolai Jokic is not getting traded. Never. He will never get traded by Denver next. It's just not going to happen. So again, I don't know why you would come out your mouth with that. It made zero sense. He clearly was over talking. Was walked into the answer by the reporter. Again, there's something that you're going to hear. But it's gonna be interesting in Denver, because I look at Joker. This guy wants to win. Keep your eye on that. Him. Keep your eye on whether or not he takes that contract. He signs that contract extension this summer. That's going to wrap it up for this latest edition of the Ril Dil podcast. Have a great rest of your evening. Stay cool. I'll see you next time.